Today, in episode 24, registered dietitian and my favorite faith-filled nutrition guru, Jane Curry Weber, talks to us not about counting calories or keeping our health New Year's resolutions, but rather about getting to the roots of some of our discontentment with mealtime, whether it's how we approach the table with flawed mindsets or obstacles that emerge as we are trying to please and connect with the people around our table. And we had such a fun and interesting discussion that I'm making it a two-part series. So listen in for part 1 of 12 reasons you don't have peace at your table. Welcome to the Unperfect Podcast. I'm your host, Shelley Sneed, and I'm here to help you see glimpses of God's glory among life's imperfections. If you've ever struggled with measuring up to an unattainable standard or wondered where is God during less than perfect circumstances, congratulations, you're officially human, and you're not alone. Hope and probably a bit of humor are coming up. Well, today we have Jane Curry Weber, who has spent most of her 20-plus year career as a dietitian, listening to family stories and helping them improve their nutrition from right where they are. She has walked and stumbled in her Christian faith for that long, too. And now she's building a community on Substack to explore and experiment with a refreshing perspective on faith and on food that truly satisfies. I love that. So her newsletter and podcast hope to bring peace to your table and rest to your spirit through words of nourishment for body and soul. Jane and her husband Colin have 3 children. They live in Nova Scotia on the east coast of Canada, where she walks along the banks of the world's highest, which I was just telling Jane before we got on that I was so fascinated by that. I've been on YouTube for the last 20 minutes looking at those high tides, and it looks like a very beautiful place to live. So welcome, Jane, to the podcast.
I am so thrilled to be here. Thank you, Shelley, for inviting me.
Jane and I got to know each other a little bit this summer. We were in a course together, and I have been reading your blog and on your Substack, and listening to your podcast, and always come away encouraged, which that has not always been the case when I come away from a dietitian or a nutritionist. So that has been great. I love it. Love all the stuff I'm learning from you. So glad you're here today, and we are gonna. Is there anything else you want to tell us about yourself? What you do? Where you live?
Sure. Oh, thanks for that introduction. I have to first say I have so enjoyed getting to know you as well, Shelley. And I get excited when you have a new release of your podcast because you really are encouraging. I think my default is, that type A kind of personality. And so I've spent my life trying to, subdue that. So you've just been a super encourager. So I thank you for all that I've learned from you as well. Yeah. And maybe just to premise, where I come from, like I grew up in a big family and my mom always had just had the mantra of there's always room for one more. And she was talking about our table. And I just love that kind of welcoming feeling that she gave us. And I just want to pass it on to others to have the table be a positive space. So I'm just happy to be here to talk more about that.
I love that too. And my mom was also very, very hospitable. That my parents worked with college students, and on Sunday, I don't remember a Sunday that we didn't have like 5 extra college students hanging out at our table after church. And I laugh now because every Sunday we had this huge meal, and my people on the way home from church now on Sundays are like, so what's for lunch? I'm like, whatever you can find. Like, yeah. I just want to live to make it home from church. So we're going to kind of jump right into what we're going to be talking about today. And it's 12 reasons why we don't have peace at our table. So I'm just going to let you jump in and start giving us some of these reasons.
Sure. Thanks, Shelley. And I think that with our food and eating and diet, we're always looking for ways to fix. And we forget about there's reasons why. There are places that we don't have peace around eating and food. And so I tried to make a list of 12 reasons, but gosh, I'm sure your listeners have lots more that they could add to it, but it just starts the conversation. And the first one of the 12 that I'm going to talk about is something that we all can relate to, and it's simply rush. Time
Yeah.
is non-existent at mealtimes. All of us feel that.
Right.
Sometimes we barely sit in the first place. And I wish I could say there's an age and stage when this is non-existent, but it changes, but it's just different. So when the kids were little in my home and my boys are older now, um, it was super busy. And I thought, oh, it's going to get, better as I go. Um, but it's just now it's more people are coming and going. And so how do you find that point of connection? So it's tough when they squirm when they're little, but it's tough as, they're like ships passing in the night. So rush can be something that's always there, but just having that stance of wanting to find a rhythm of connection around food. And so that's our first one. That's, a reason I think that everyone can resonate with.
Absolutely. And I'm like you, when the kids were little, there's different struggles at different stages, right?
Mhm.
And
Yeah,
the struggle we're having now is no one's ever home at the same time. It's like one person's at work, one person has a basketball practice. So it does kind of feel like, you're always in a rush, or you're sitting, but you never know who's going to be sitting across from you. So
exactly. That's right. And then almost like trying to make our schedules meet theirs, right? So it's a little different when they're younger. We're
right.
controlling the schedule.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
what about the next one?
So number 2 is actually a question rather than a statement, and it just simply says, "Table? What table?" Because we may have a table or an island, but it's used for homework, or it has, a basket of laundry dumped out on it, or the current projects, or the little, the crafting that's going along. That's just too much of a hurdle to actually get to sitting around this table. And so perhaps we head to the couch or go to our rooms or whatever it is. But, it's really that first point of how can we even eat and connect together if we don't have a place established? So that could be a reason for some people.
Yes, and that's an issue at our house. My table is right around the corner from the laundry room, so exactly like what you said. There's either laundry on it, or it's also the point, like when you walk up the stairs from the garage, there's the table. And so everybody's stuff gets put at the table.
Right. Yep.
And it's funny too, we have this enormous table. It was built when we were working at a conference center that we had interns over all the time. And we also have a big family. We have 4 kids. But you can fill up a big table just as
You
easy as
can.
you can fill up a little table with stuff, because ours is
Absolutely.
constantly covered.
Yep.
Yeah, that is very true. Getting that table available is probably the first step for
First
some of
step, you
us.
got it. Yeah. Yeah. So number 3 is more of a heavy one. And if you're a woman, you probably can relate to this. And it is body shame is given a seat and it affects my every bite. So tough one there for sure. And it can be a silent presence, maybe even subconscious when we eat. But it can be something that can torment, right? And really rob and steal peace that we are meant to have around the table. So it may not be that outright struggle, but we're affected by this incessant culture, really, with this messaging of perfection. So whatever the perfection of the
Right.
day is, right? The requisite body shape that is, what everyone wants is looking for. So if we could take a step back and see that the preferred body shape has dramatically changed over the years, right?
Right.
And even in our lifetime, we certainly have seen that. It's gone from slim to curvy, right? Just with the
Right.
difference, yep, in the messaging. So if we internalize that, our peace and rest can get robbed and shame us. And we know that, shame is not from the Lord. Never. It's from the enemy who's trying to steal, kill, and destroy that peace from us. So
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah. So something we can all relate to. Um, and really, our culture is wanting us to look for our value by looking around us horizontally. And as believers, we get to look up. We get to go look vertically
Mm.
for our value. So it can be as simple as tilting our heads in a different direction. So when we look side to side, look up for our value rather than down in shame. And, down in shame, and I'm thinking just now, like down at our phones, right? Because we know that,
Yes.
yeah, we can see a lot of that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's, some what you're talking about, the culture and the messaging. We've all seen it. But it is interesting you were talking about how it's changed, because I was recently ordering some jeans on, and I do all my shopping online because now that one more reason not to leave the house is my
Yes.
mantra these days.
I'm with you.
But, it was funny, like, a lot of times I'll order jeans or pants, and I'm like, "Gosh, these don't look like the girl in the picture," because she was a, size 0.
Of
But
course.
now some of the apps have these things where it's like, "What body shape do you wanna see these jeans
Mm,
in?" Have you
mhm.
seen that?
I have not.
You can click on, and it'll be so I'll find someone that's, got
Yeah.
more hips, more curves, whatever. I'm like, "I wanna see what they look like on her," because that's gonna be a better option. I just thought that was funny, but I do love that. Which way are you looking? That is a great way to think about it because that really can affect, how we eat
Yeah,
and
exactly.
how we even just come to the meal, with that mindset. So, yeah,
Yeah,
that's a good one.
yeah, that's right. Okay, so number 4 is sort of straightforward. It's medical reasons. So straightforward in the reason, but can be complicated in how it affects how we eat and the piece that we have at the table. So what I mean by that, like there could be food restrictions that you have to abide by, or having to eat even more than you want to. And it can steal that rest. So, for example, maybe you have to be conscious of what you eat and how it affects your blood sugars, or perhaps you have food allergies or intolerances. Maybe that unintended weight loss, it means that you have to eat more than you want, and that steals joy in eating when you're eating more than you
Sure.
want, you know? We all think of the time in the first trimester, if we've had the privilege of being pregnant, then we didn't feel so good. And so eating was not
Right.
peaceful, right? um, or,
Absolutely.
yeah, so just finding local help with that, I guess, would be a strategy, of course, to find some rest within the restrictions that you have to have. And sometimes I've helped people look at, this isn't a restriction, it's just an exchange in how you have to eat to kind of take that kind of, negative side to that. But that's definitely something that can rob our peace, just even directly that way.
Absolutely, and as a mom of I had a one of our sons had a feeding tube for 12 years,
Mm, wow.
and he's doing great now, but for years, like, they were telling me, you need to make your mashed potatoes with extra butter and extra cream and extra like, as a mom, like, who wants to cook, 4 different meals? You wanna
That's
cook
right.
so, I think there's probably some moms out there with even bigger, issue, yeah, what you're saying, that are having to cook this type of meal for this, like
That's right.
gluten-free or nut-free or whatever. And that really could rob you of a lot of joy, of a lot of, time.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, so I can see how that would be a big one for some people,
Yeah. That's a lot of
for
stress
sure.
of trying to get them to eat that extra, right? When they don't want to. Kids are so good at knowing how
Right.
much their body's saying to eat, and then for us to say, "No, you have to actually eat more," is stressful for everybody.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then as the mom, I'm gonna eat those potatoes that had all the butter with extra cream
Yeah,
and
that's
everything
right.
else. So then we go back to body shame number
Oh
3.
gosh. Yes, I
Yes.
know. Full
Yeah,
circle.
can be a cycle.
Mhm.
Okay, good. So how about number 5?
Number 5. This one is food scars. So I had down eating scars, so I think food scars describes it a little better. And this can be like bad food memories or messages that can be on replay when you face your plate full. So, it could be something like a negative food memory around food that affects us even now. It could be as simple as some people heard you have to clean your plate. And so then you're like eating, I'm like, "Oh, I'm content with the amount I ate, but now I feel guilty that I'm wasting," So it can be a lot of like a negativity that influences our food decisions. Or maybe it was simply that when you not simply, but when perhaps sometime in your life you didn't have enough to eat. And so that influences how you eat
Right.
now, and how you feed your family. I've heard that before where a moment's like, I can't not provide them food all the time because I've been hungry in my lifetime. So there's a
Oh,
lot of
yeah.
different, yeah, ways that memories around food can influence how we have peace and rest currently.
That's interesting, for sure, and I'm sure that can go different ways too because, um, even as you have family, like, we had a big family with lots of get-togethers and lots of people over, and everything was centered around food and very high fat food and but it was a comforting thing, like, so it was
Sure.
when you have people over, you have all this, comfort food. It's just interesting, to think about that we have different memories with different kinds of food and different, like you're saying, with some people having it or not having it.
That's right.
Um, our our two of our kids are adopted, and they had always told us that they may struggle with like stealing food because they didn't have enough or whatever. Which I don't think ours ever struggled with that. Thankfully, I think they kind of but this has nothing to do with it. Just made me think of this funny story. Our son had texture issues, and so he did not like green beans. They were slimy, and he would. So he was 4 when we got him, and I mean, we would find green beans stuffed in his pockets.
Oh,
He would pass them down to the dog, and we were talking about this the other day. We had to come up with this song. It was like this little rap the whole family sang about eat your green beans, and like we can still sing it to this day
that's
about
awesome.
getting Sam to eat his green beans. But yeah, lots of memories, good and bad,
Oh,
related
that's
to
right.
green beans there. But
Oh, fun.
okay, all right, tell
Okay.
us about this next one.
Sure. So number 6, again, one we could probably all relate to is the cost. I feel pressure to eat well on a little budget, and food costs have soared, lately. We can all see them, or perhaps the price hasn't changed, but the size has gone down, it could be either way.
Sure.
With that ridiculous price, that steals rest. And now we're feeling the pressure. I'm supposed to have all these healthy foods and it's not within my budget. And there's lots of strategies around that. I mean, coming back to basics, whole foods tend to be cheaper in the long run than processed foods. That's such a loaded
Right.
statement. Oh my gosh. And we'll talk more about that and other subsequent tips here. But yeah, so that's can definitely steal rest, if we're trying to plan our meals and the cost has just gone through the roof.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's almost like this double-edged sword type of thing because especially when your kids are younger, you're trying to buy foods that are easy, right? And
Yeah,
that's all the processed stuff.
right.
But you're right. The fruits and the vegetables and stuff tend to actually be cheaper. Now I will say we've started eating the 96%, fat-free beef or whatever, and it's crazy how much
Mhm.
more expensive. Like, when I didn't have to care about that before, I could just look for the cheapest price of
That's
the
right.
beef, or salmon or we're
Yeah,
trying to eat more fish and that kinda stuff, and it is, that can be difficult. You have to be really creative and look for recipes where you can get a lot more for your bang, I guess.
that's
More
right.
bang for your buck.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but the thing is those expensive ones that you're describing, they're the ones that keep us full the longest, right? And if we look at the boxed foods, that kind of thing, fill us up in the moment, but don't last, and so we're coming back for more sooner than if we had those whole foods, so
That is
yeah.
a very good point. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So on to
All
number
right.
7. So again, another loaded one. This is food is wrapped up in emotions and is eaten to comfort or is the company that doesn't disappoint. Yeah. So
Absolutely.
yeah, we eat
I
for
don't
so
know
many
whether to
reasons.
amen I kinda wanna amen that, but then I
Right.
really shouldn't.
I know. But you're saying you can relate to it. I think most of us can.
Yes.
Yeah, because we eat for so many reasons. Perhaps it's because it simply looks good and we want to experience the taste. I mean, we know all about that coming off of the holidays, right? We had so many options often presented to us or we've made. And sometimes we'll eat clearly because we're physically hungry or the medical reasons, as we mentioned, or maybe it's conditioned. So, what I mean by that is why is it that we crave popcorn at the movie theater every time we go to the movie theater or we have a movie at home,
Right.
right? Because 'Cause we've had it every time. So, it's fostered that craving, right? And I certainly did that to my kids. Um,
Right.
yeah, so if we've paired a food with an activity many times that we can have that, craving or emotional kind of attachment. But sometimes it's because we have an actual emotional tie. So, for instance, when I lived far away from home from where I grew up as a young adult, when I was the most homesick, I craved the foods my mom made, growing up.
Wow,
Yeah, and
yeah.
you start to, "Why am I craving this?" It's like, "Oh, right, I'm craving home. I'm really craving home, not this
Yeah,
food."
yeah.
Yeah.
It's like that phrase, "It tastes like home." That's a
Yes,
real thing.
exactly. You got it. Yep. And if we're stressed or we're anxious, some of us will eat more and some of us will eat less in response to that stress. So that can be like this emotion that's tied up in how we eat and whether we have that rest with eating. And for some, and I had a woman say this to me and I never forgot it. And she just said, sometimes food is the company that doesn't disappoint. So when she's
Mm,
lonely or feeling isolated, her friend, her comfort that's really reliable are foods that were her favorites. So it can be good company, right? Sometimes. So
yep.
lots of different reasons. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can totally relate to this one. This is probably one of the biggest ones for me because I eat when I'm anxious, I eat when I'm bored, I eat when I'm depressed. I'm a stress eater. Like if there's a big emotion going on, I eat when I'm happy. And
Right.
it's not like I go and eat a carrot stick. I go and eat chocolate. My son, one of my sons loves Hershey Kisses, and he we have this enormous bowl of Hershey Kisses in the kitchen. And I finally last night I was like, we can't keep this here. Like I don't
Yeah.
have the willpower. Like I'm gonna walk in the
Right.
kitchen if I'm happy, stressed, whatever, and I'm just gonna grab a handful of them. So I was
Right.
laughing because I heard you on our friend Sandy's podcast, and she was talking about how she's a stress cleaner. And
Yes.
I thought, wow,
I
my
know.
house would be spotless if I
Yes,
was a
me
stress
too.
cleaner, like spotless. But that is not my problem. I'm a stress eater. So
Right.
that I definitely can see, the emotions getting and then sometimes I've had, with, we've had some issues with some of our kids that we've had to deal with and some pretty big, trauma and stuff that have caused some big behaviors, and sometimes I would eat and just think, "You know what? This isn't healthy, this isn't good for me, but I deserve it because I
Right.
had a horrible morning or I had a horrible experience, and I just deserve this," which is really is kind of a lie because what I deserve is to do whatever I can to stay healthy because that's
Mhm.
an ongoing issue. But
Right.
my somewhere in my brain it
Mhm.
says, no, I deserve to indulge in this.
Yeah,
Does
and
that
you're
make
not alone.
sense?
Yes, you're not alone in that at all,
Yeah.
for sure. It's sort of a lot of times, I think when the kids are little, even more so, when you just get through the day, you get through the bath, you get them in bed, they're asleep, and you just go, ah, and then you want to sit down
Yeah.
and have a snack, right?
Right.
Yes.
Exactly.
Right, and sometimes it's because of coming back full circle to number 1 with the rush all day and never really having that
True.
point of rest with food, that this is the first moment in time, once everybody's taken care of, that we can actually rest, and so sometimes this craving or this emotion is wrapped up in wanting that rest that usually accompanies food that we didn't get during the
Sure.
day, and so then it's sort of wrapped up or sorry, gets twisted into, "I deserve this," where it's like, "You know what? It's just because I am craving that rest and restoration that comes with the pause
Right.
with food." Yeah. So, yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's almost like I need to change the narrative to be what am I really craving here? What do I really want?
Exactly.
Is it the food or is it the rest, like you're saying?
Yeah, exactly, and I love how you're thinking around, how, this is the reason why I'm eating these foods sometimes around emotion, and then now what can I do about it? Because that's looking at the reason behind the behavior rather than trying to fix it with something that may not or may not help it. Yeah, so it's awesome. So number 8 is a dieting lens. So how this steals rest, with eating is I don't see nourishment, I see calories or carbs or fat. I need to limit. So there isn't rest with eating when we're dieting for sure. And this is one that's going to hit home with many this time of year.
Absolutely. It's January as we're recording this, and everyone but me because this morning I had chocolate cake for
Awesome.
breakfast.
That's
And then
okay.
later I thought, I am interviewing a dietitian this morning. That is not that is not the way I should have started my day.
That's
But
totally
it
okay.
is true. And I've done so many different eating plans where one,
Mhm.
you're looking at carbs, one, you're looking at sugars, one, you're looking at calories, and and I'm getting to the point now where I'm starting to thankfully go, okay, how much fiber is in this? Like
Yay,
those are the
good.
kind of things
Yeah.
that's a little better to start looking at. Because then like I find more, I kind of feel a sense of success. Like, oh my gosh, I'm having this and it has 8 grams of fiber, because I realized I was not getting enough of that. There's actually more reward, I think I'm finding. Maybe it's just I'm getting older and I don't have the metabolism that I had when I
No,
was
no.
20 or 30. But there's a little more reward in seeing those kind of things than but either way, I
100%.
like what you're saying. You're not seeing nourishment. You're seing some kind of number
Yes.
that
Yeah, and you took the words right out of my mouth, Shelley, which I am wholeheartedly in agreement with, because if we only look at the negative aspects of food, it's hard to have that restful joy with eating. But like what you're saying, if we're looking at the positive effects or the health benefits to what we're eating, then we're going to have something positive and feel good about it. So it's perfect. And then it frees up that mind space. So instead of striving to eat perfectly, you're looking for the benefit of what you are eating, and that's restful. One's striving, one's
Right.
restful. Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah. Oh, I like that. Very good.
Yeah.
I know you enjoyed these first 8 of 12 reasons you and I don't have peace at our table. Make sure you tune in next week for the last 4, where we'll dive into the reason that is the cause for most of Jane's referrals in her role as a dietitian. We so want our tables to be positive places for ourselves and for those we share connections with around it. And I'm sure one or more of these points that Jane made today resonated with you, whether it's feeling rushed or not having a table even available, giving shame a seat, medical issues or food scars, food costs, emotional eating, or just seeing your table from a dieting lens. You're not alone, and there is hope, believe me, from one Hershey kiss by the pound consuming, continually dieting, tables always cluttered woman to another. Wherever you are, just start with one, just one. Pick one area to look into, pray about, research, whatever might be helpful to jumpstart your journey to finding rest and peace at your table. None of our tables are perfect, but if you need a friend to guide you through some of these steps more intimately, I highly encourage you to head over to Jane's site on Substack. It's called The Contented Table, where she has more articles, plain Jane recipes as she calls them, and the original post where she dives into the 12 reasons why you don't have peace at your table. And then this last one is my favorite. She has a free downloadable resource to help us get started. Yay! It's called 7 Steps to Bring Peace to Your Table. And I'll put the direct link in the show notes for you, but you should be able to find any of the things we've mentioned today and those we'll mention next week by heading over to the Contented Table on Substack. As always, thanks for joining me at the Unperfect Podcast today. I pray you see glimpses of God's glory among the imperfections of your life and even your table. See you next time. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a quick rating and review. It only takes a second, and it helps other unperfect people like us find the podcast so they can be encouraged too. If you sometimes struggle with living in the tension of the now and the not yet, I've got a free resource just for you called The Unperfect Promises of God. It's a printable download of 5 biblical meditations to help you find balance between the brokenness we live in and the hope that we have in Jesus. Just click on the link and that printable download is yours free. Yay, we love free.